Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's? Well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com.
Well, he won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. He's a real athlete, so give him your respect. He's got intensity, integrity, intelligence too. Oh, it's true, it's damn true. So if he ever finds you and you're chanting you suck, then he'll douse you in dairy with his big milk truck. And with one angle slam, he'll lay you out on the floor. So listen up, it's time to go. It's the Kurt Angle Show.
Hey, this is Kurt Angle, and welcome to the Kurt Angle Show. On today's episode, we'll be doing a watch-along pertaining to my match against Stone Cold Steve Austin, 2001 Summerslam for the WWF Championship. But first, let me introduce to you my co-host, Conrad Thompson. How you doing, Conrad?
Man, I'm excited to be here. This is one of the biggest moments of your career. Of course, we've been talking a lot about what a big year 2001 is. Of course, SummerSlam, arguably the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. And you're wrestling the biggest star in the business here, Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is going to be a fun show.
It should be a fun show. I hope so.
We're going to set the stage. Before we do, I want to give you a heads up. About halfway through the show today, we're going to do a watch along. So if you haven't already, fire up your Peacock network. You'll want to find SummerSlam from 2001. Unfortunately, it navigates a little differently than the old WWE network did. So here's a pro tip. Look for season 14, as silly as that is. That's the way SummerSlam 2001 is programmed in Peacock, but it's season 14, and we're going to have you go to 1 hour and 47 minutes. But before we get into that, I want to mention we're coming right off of the Invasion pay-per-view, and JR and I recently talked about that over on Grill and JR, but it's an interesting decision because they do the same thing they did at WrestleMania 17. They turned Stone Cold Steve Austin into a bad guy again. So now he's abandoned the WWF. He's joined the Alliance, and you two are clearly the top two guys in the promotion. So I guess it makes sense. Were you surprised that they had him turn heel again and not you?
Yes. Stone Cold Steve Austin, he wasn't getting stale as a babyface. He was still hot as hell, and there was no reason to turn him. I think the reason why they turned him is because they wanted to start creating more baby faces. And Austin was a great in-ring worker, a great character on TV. And I think they thought that he could make a lot of talent.
You know, you had a meteoric rise here in the company. I mean, 2001, when you go back and you look at that Invasion pay-per-view, star-studded, so many big stars on the show. But the two biggest pops, and it's not even close, are you and Steve Austin. Fans are really responding to you. So early in your career here, 2001, did you have like a go-to guy, like a mentor or somebody you could lean on for advice? Or are you just trying to figure this out on your own?
I figured most of it out on my own. I mean, when you get a top spot like that, you don't have a lot of people giving you advice. They want to see how you do. They want to see how you pan out. Are you going to succeed or are you going to fail? It's pretty lonely at the top, my friend. So you have to take it in stride and understand that you're going to basically do this on your own. You're going to get some advice from some agents, but for the most part, this is all by yourself.
I'm curious from a Vince McMahon standpoint. We've heard a lot of times that Vince McMahon wants a personal relationship with his top stars. And in this era, are you as hands-on and you're creative with Vince McMahon as say Steve Austin would have been? Or are you more just showing up and doing what they ask you to do?
Actually, they made me part of creative. When I
Wow.
got that top spot, the creative started calling me every week and bouncing ideas off of me. And Vince would even call me at times. So I had Vince's ear and he had mine. And, when you're in a top spot like that, Vince wants to make sure that everything is going perfectly. And he wants to fill the talent in on what they need to do and how they're going to go about the next storyline or whatever it is. But, they throw ideas at you and you can say yes or no. For the most part, they'll go whatever decision you decide. But, for me, I was game for anything. So I would just say yes, whenever creative would throw an idea at me and I'd say, okay, let's do this.
When you say creative, do you mean Bruce was calling, Brian was calling? Who would be sort of your go-to guy to call and pitch you ideas?
Brian, Bruce, Vince, all of them, even JR. So, JR wasn't part of creative, but, at times he would call me and give me some advice. But for the most part, it was Brian Gewirtz throwing ideas back at me.
We've heard over the years, guys joke that Vince is almost like a nocturnal animal. He would just call you at all hours of the night because he doesn't sleep. Did you get any weird middle of the night calls from Vince in this era?
Sometimes at 1 a.m, 1:30 in the morning, Vince would call me, ask me if I'm okay, what I thought about the show that night. Because Vince, when he gets done with the show, he wraps up the show, he gets in his limo and he goes to the hotel, and then they rent out a gym in that city, and Vince works out from 2 to 4 in the morning. Then he goes back to the hotel, goes to sleep from 4:30 to 6, and then he wakes up again. He takes an hour and a half nap, and that's it. He's a monster. He does that every day.
It's unbelievable. Well, along with you being the top baby face, The Rock is returning from shooting a movie and he's immediately slotted in to start working with Booker T. And it's a real vote of confidence in your ability to draw and be a top baby face, because with The Rock returning after Steve Austin putting him on the shelf, they don't immediately go back to that program, which I think a lot of people would have assumed, like, we're fresh off of WrestleMania 17. We're going to put these guys back together, but that's not the case. I'm sure you're excited to see The Rock back because that means, houses are going to be good and he's a big draw. But at the same time, it's got to be like, wait a minute, they're not just going right back to Austin here. Damn, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was surprised they did go back to Austin and Rock, but Stone Cold and I had great chemistry and we had a great storyline running already. And I think Vince had enough confidence in me to know that I could handle that spot. But The Rock coming back, I mean, anytime you get The Rock back, it's a big deal. It's going to help ratings, pay-per-view buys. It's going to draw a lot of interest. And he's a huge star. He's one of the biggest superstars in the history of the business.
So on the night after Invasion, of course, there's a Monday Night Raw, and you're going to interrupt Steve Austin's opening promo, and Austin's going to challenge you to get in the ring. And of course, you're going to suplex him, and then he's going to powder out. But the reaction you get when you come out here in Buffalo is gigantic. Obviously, Steve Austin's the biggest star in the business, but when you come out, Lord, this crowd is behind you. Do you remember that pop in Buffalo? It was deafening.
Yes, it was actually my first big babyface pop, and I was overwhelmed. I couldn't believe it because I was a heel for most of my career up until then. And when I turned babyface, I didn't think they were going to accept me that quickly, but they did. And I think it had a lot to do with Stone Cold. I think a lot of fans were pissed off that he turned heel. Mm-hmm. They wanted to like him, but they were told not to. And, so I think I got a lot of the support that he used to get on my side.
You do a vignette with the APA where you're drinking beer and you like it. Is this to give you more of an edge as a baby face? Because this is a hilarious skit. It feels like it has Brian's fingerprints all over it.
Oh, it definitely did. And yes, that was the reason for that is Vince wanted to get me away from the milk drinking nerd character and be a little cooler and, have a beer with the APA and, hang out with the guys and be cool like the guys. So, I thought it was a great idea because I was a babyface at that time. And, when I was the nerd milk drinker, fans were booing me. So Vince thought that, the fans would be more on my side if I did something like that.
I get it. It's a wrestling podcast, but he's saving us money on our mortgage. Do you really trust this process? The reviews don't lie. 5-star review after 5-star review. We make it fast, we make it easy, and it's no cost or obligation. Give us a shot to earn your business. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did, especially if you like keeping more of your own money. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket, so what are you waiting for? Hurry to savewithconrad.com. So Vince is going to invite The Rock back, and you confront him in a backstage promo, and you agreed that Rock should be back, but that you still want to be the leader. And I guess it's sort of important to separate yourself from Vince if you're trying to be a babyface. There's some intricate storytelling going on here.
Yes, I mean, The Rock was the man, and him coming back was a huge deal, but I also wanted to make sure I didn't lose my spot.
Right.
And, the pre-tape was all about, separating myself from Vince, because Vince was the biggest heel in the business, especially at that time. And I need to separate myself from him. And I think that, joining with The Rock and talking to him gave me a good rub.
Let's talk about what you're doing that very same night. You're in the main event. It's a tables elimination match. It's going to be you, Edge, and Christian, which is funny considering you guys stopped teaming, but here we are again with everyone on the WWF side taking on the Dudley Boys and Booker T. And you wound up having some major problems in this match with the tables. Edge and Christian get eliminated, so it's 3-on-1, but you're supposed to suplex Devon through a table, but it doesn't break. And then you angle slam Booker onto a table that's supposed to break. And finally you put those two on a table, and Earl Hebner's bumped, and Nick Patrick, the WCW referee, comes out and starts helping Bubba by moving the table. When you go to angle slam him through the table, and then Austin's going to attack you, Bubba power bombs you through the table, and that gives his team the win. I've always wondered, from a wrestler standpoint, you're working with inanimate objects. And unfortunately, those tables didn't go to wrestling school. They don't know how to sell, and they don't always cooperate. When you're in the ring like that, and this is supposed to break, and for some reason, damn it, it doesn't. How frustrating is that? And how do you recover?
Oh, it's a pain in the ass, but you can't, you have to finish. You have to definitely finish the match. Hopefully you have enough time to do it. The time doesn't run out. But you're going to make mistakes in matches. You make mistakes in real life. So, when you go to suplex somebody through a table and it doesn't work, that's pretty normal. I mean, you obviously you want it to be perfect, the match, but most of the time it's not going to be. And if a table doesn't break, you just have to keep trying again until you get them through the table. And that's all I was trying to do.
What's your most frustrating table moment? Do you remember right off the top of your head one that sticks out where you're like, damn it, that was the worst table ever?
It was Devon when I tried to suplex him through the table.
Yeah.
He landed on the table and just fell off of it. It was ridiculous. You think someone as big as Devon would go right through it, but he didn't.
Once upon a time, they used to quote unquote gimmick the tables a little bit, but it feels like sometimes that's not the case. And when that doesn't happen and you've got a bunch of beef up there and it doesn't break, it's going to be a long night at the office.
It will be a long night. And I think they forgot to gimmick a couple of the tables that night. And I think that was the problem.
So the next night you return to your hometown in Pittsburgh for Smackdown, and boy, what timing this is. Here you are, the newly crowned babyface king of the promotion, and we're in your hometown. You of course get a hero's welcome. The crowd is chanting for you all night. Listen, this is probably not something new for you. You've been, such a dominant athlete for so long. You've been in these sporting events and had people chanting for you, but the WWE crowd, when they're really with you in your hometown, it's probably not a lot like it.
There's nothing like it. Pittsburgh proud, Pittsburgh crowd. Those people are, you're from Pittsburgh, they're going to cheer for you regardless. And, since I turned babyface, they were really, really loud that night. All night long, they were chanting my name. They wanted me to come out. And when I finally came out, the place erupted. It was incredible.
So you end up main eventing SmackDown against Booker T, and you win the WCW world title from him in a great match, which featured some interference from Canyon and even Austin. but you're still able to go ahead and overcome it, lock in the ankle lock for the victory. And I get that it's the WCW title, even though WCW is technically closed, but still, it's a world title win in your hometown of Pittsburgh. Had to be a banner night for you in your career.
Oh, it was a great night. Winning the WCW title in front of my hometown was awesome. I couldn't have been any happier than that. And I think the reason that why they wanted me to beat Booker was to show that I was a threat to Stone Cold Steve Austin, that I could actually win a world title as a babyface. And I think that's the reason why they wanted to do it, because I didn't hold that title very long. So, I think I dropped it the following week, but they at least wanted me to get a stepping stone of winning a world title before I went at it with Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Man, what a time in your career here. When did you find out you were going to win the WCW title? Do you find out that day?
I found out about 5 days prior. Brian Gewartz told me that I was going to wrestle Booker T and I was going to win the title from him. He also said I wouldn't carry it that long. And, I didn't need to. It was just one of those things where I needed to shine that night and make myself look really good and really strong to build up the Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Raw is back in Philly, and you're going to wind up dropping the WCW title right back to Booker, of course, after a bunch of interference. You chase after Austin. Austin's going to speed away in his car. He's going to leave Deborah behind. And one of your all-time classic lines, you let Deborah know that her cookies sucked. It's a great payoff to all those vignettes from the previous month with you, Steve, and Vince. But boy, this is the hot potato era here with this WCW title. You win the thing on Smackdown, lose it on the next Raw.
Yeah, it didn't last that long. I think it was 6 days I held the title and that was it. But I was happy that I actually won it. It's a feather in my cap. I won a WCW title, so I'm a WCW champion. And the title, even though it really didn't exist because WCW went under, they got bought out from WWE, it's still a world title. And, it's recorded in history that I actually won it.
It's got to be a cool moment. The next night in DC, you finally challenge Steve Austin for the WWF world title. And then you lead the crowd in the Pledge of Allegiance. Of course, Lance Storm's going to interrupt you, and it leads to you versus Lance later on that night. Of course, you're going to win with the ankle lock, but you come out of there with a busted eye in a match from, I think, your gold medals cutting you. What do you remember about working with Lance and how the medals wound up cutting you?
Well, the gold medals, they were from when I was a child, and it's a perfect length where the gold medals that drop down to my chest right here. And when I would bump, anytime I would do any kind of move and I would bump, the medal would pop up and hit me directly in the eye, one or the other. I did it at least 5 times in my career. And that was one of them. But Lance was a great worker. I loved working with him. He had great skill, great in-ring technician, little bit dry personality. But other than that, Lance was a great worker.
It's fun to see this concept of you doing the Pledge of Allegiance. What do you think of that creative? That's awesome.
I think it's goofy as hell.
Hilarious.
It's really patriotic and it can be kind of nerdy, but at the time it wasn't. The fans were behind me and they were doing it too, and it was pretty awesome.
Let's talk about your injury here. I think it's in this match or it's somewhere around here. You pull your groin. That's got to be one of the more painful injuries you worked through, right?
Yeah, your groin, it controls your whole body. Every movement you do comes from your groin in your legs. And I pulled it. I didn't tear it. So it wasn't a really serious injury, but it could be. And I had to be very careful that I didn't tear it any more than I did. And it hurt like a son of a gun. Anytime I would step or squat or do any type of movement, I would get a sharp pain go right down my leg. And it was really difficult to work with. You just have to wait it out. Eventually it'll heal, but the pain is unbelievable.
The other thing that comes out around this time is that the Invasion buy rate was huge. I think to this day, it is the most purchased WWF pay-per-view that wasn't named WrestleMania, but it beat every SummerSlam. It beat every Royal Rumble. I'm not exactly asking you to tell me a dollar figure, but was it your biggest payday that wasn't for a WrestleMania?
It was close. I will tell you this. I won't tell you how high it was, but it was six figures. And that's a great payoff for a non-WrestleMania payday. And, I think a lot of the guys were happy about that pay-per-view.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So Raw from Anaheim is going to see you team up with Chris Jericho. You guys are going to beat the Dudleys. You worked with the Dudleys a lot in this time frame. Any favorite memories of working with Bubba and Devon?
Well, what I loved about them very much was their ideas and concepts. They came up with incredible ideas in the matches, amazing spots, and they were very creative. Them and Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys, they're some of the best tag teams in history, and they're very innovative with their spots. They have their shit together, and they do a lot of stuff that's completely crazy, but it makes sense.
You have a backstage promo here with The Rock, and you're essentially going to say, we need bygones to be bygones. And you offer The Rock some milk as a peace offering. Right. He takes it, said it's the best milk he ever had. You guys shake hands. It's a fun little skit. But hey, you're one of the top guys and he is too. And I don't know who's giving who the rub here, but this is a pretty cool little skit.
That was for me to get the rub. The Rock was the biggest superstar that I've ever known, and him and Stone Cold, and to get a rub from him was incredible, because when you're accepted like The Rock, you're a huge deal. And Dwayne, that night, that was the reason, was to give me a good rub.
Let's talk about Smackdown the next night in Los Angeles. It's got you and the Hardys against Austin and the Dudleys in an elimination match. Of course, it comes down to you and Steve, and it's interference galore. The finish is a no contest, and the show goes off the air with you giving Austin the ankle lock on the ramp. Is Steve the veteran telling you that you and him are going to be the big match at SummerSlam and the heat's building, etc.? I mean, this feels like a moment where you two guys have to sort of be on the same page, especially knowing where you're going to be positioned at SummerSlam. What's your relationship like with Austin in this era off camera?
Oh, we were really tight. We were very, very good friends. We started trusting each other, bouncing ideas off each other. But Austin told me, he said, listen, I laid everything down for you. Everything is set for you. All you have to do is show up and produce at SummerSlam. I did everything I can as a heel to make you look as good of a babyface as you can be. And I'm going to continue to do that. And I can't thank Austin enough for what he did for me. He didn't have to do it.
Let's talk about the go home Raw for SummerSlam. It's got you versus Rob Van Dam, but it's probably the vignettes of this show that are most remembered. First, Hugh Morris is going to go to attack you. You're going to overcome him, lock him in the ankle lock. Later, Sean Stasiak is going to try to attack you. You're going to sidestep him as you're talking to William Regal, and he's going to crash into Regal's steel knight in the corner and knock himself out. And you tell Hurricane that the Green Lantern isn't a top superhero, and he's not, by the way, Hurricane, if you're listening. And Hurricane smacks the milk out of your hands and you destroy him. Pretty fun little series of skits here. What do you remember about this one?
Well, I think that the whole reason for those skits was to make me look super strong, taking out every, WCW, ECW guy that stepped in front of me that night. And I had the match with RVD. I believe it was a hardcore match. And I thought that was a little weird to put me in a hardcore match that night, considering the match, I think, only went 3 minutes long. And we had a bunch of run-ins. I think Jeff Hardy ended up winning the hardcore title. But I thought it was really weird to be in that position. I'm not sure why I was. I know that wrestling RVD is a huge plus, but for the hardcore title, I know Vince did not want me to win that anymore. I did win it once, and RVD got it back. And I know they didn't want me to get the hardcore title again, but they still put me in this match.
It's a weird show for sure, because you've got Raven, Tommy Dreamer, and Mike Awesome all going on the attack during this match with yourself and Rob Van Dam. Eventually, as you mentioned, Jeff Hardy takes advantage of that old 24/7 rule, and he wins the hardcore title. But this is the go home show. for the second biggest pay-per-view of the year, or the Go Home Raw. But there is one last show, of course, it's SmackDown. You're going to beat Taz here in 1 minute and 33 seconds.
Redemption.
Now, yeah, finally, right? And so
Yes.
a lot of people remember in Madison Square Garden, you're undefeated once upon a time. Taz makes his WWF debut and beats you. And now, not all that long later, you're beating him in like 1.5 minutes, but it turns into a brawl afterwards. You and Austin and the WWF and the Alliance. This is, listen, you're showing how dominant you are, but man, I can't help but wonder in hindsight, could they have done more with you and Taz, given his reputation from ECW as, a grappler and all of his submission moves and his suplexes? It feels like in an alternate universe, you guys could have had one hell of a program.
Oh, I believe so. I would have loved to have a program with Taz. He was an incredible wrestler. He was especially good on the microphone, and he had a lot of talent. But I think the reason was Vince McMahon had this idea of Taz being a smaller guy and selling for the big guys and never giving up. And Taz had in his mind that he wanted to be a dominant wrestler and just beat everybody up dominantly. And, be a dominant type of wrestler. They didn't want him to be, he didn't want himself to be the underdog that was fighting from underneath. And I think that's the reason why they kind of ended Taz's career a little bit early, was because he had a different idea of what the creative had for him. And then they made him a commentary. So that was pretty much the end of Taz's career. I don't think he lasted that long after this.
We're finally here, SummerSlam, San Jose, California. And what a show, man. 15,293 fans, $907,000, $105. That's one heck of a house, man. And you and Steve are put second from the top. In hindsight, that feels a little weird. There is only one match that goes on after you. And of course it does feature The Rock. The Rock and Booker T closed the show. I know you're competitive. You like to win.
I want to be on last.
I was going to say, and I bet Steve Austin did too. Do you remember Steve being disappointed, frustrated, annoyed that you guys weren't on last?
Well, I think it was because it was Rocky's big return, and a superstar like him that returns, you're going to want to give him the main event spot. But at the same time, you have to remember that Stone Cold and my match at SummerSlam ended in a DQ. You don't want to end a pay-per-view in a DQ if you don't have to. So I think that was part of the reason why they put us on second to last.
It's going to be quite a match. We're going to watch it here together. One more time, you want to fire up your Peacock network to SummerSlam 2001. It's known as Season 14, Episode 1. I'm going to recommend that you go to 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 1 second. And we're going to watch this match together. They get plenty of time, 22 minutes and 30 seconds here in the match. Meltzer loved it too. He gave it 4.5 stars, and appreciate he gave a DQ finish 4.5 stars. Meltzer is normally pretty critical of a not so clean finish.
I'm surprised, man. That's pretty crazy.
Big deal. It's a big deal. Tells you how good it is. So Kurt, if you've got it pulled up on your end, I do on my end. I'll count backwards from 3. I'll say 3, 2, 1. And when I say play, you'll press play. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Here we go. In 3, 2, 1, play.
Of the Alliance is united as our champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin, defends that title against Kurt Angle, who so desperately wants to bring the championship home.
And this one all started at Invasion.
Kurt Angle has exploded.
Ankle lock. Austin bringing the referee in. That's the right thing. Wait a minute. Wait. What the? Austin just stunned Kurt Angle. Austin just cost Team WWF the match.
I cannot believe this.
Are you telling me the WWF title is now in the enemy camp? Why, Austin? Why, damn it? Why?
hug used to be something special between Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon. But no longer. You want to hug Kurt Angle because you're grooming him to be the next WWF champion. What's wrong with Stone Cold Steve Austin? What's wrong with me? So I've jumped to a team that appreciates, that respects, that loves Stone Cold Steve Austin. I've jumped to a team that's going to find me the best competition in the world. Stone Cold Steve Austin will back down from nobody.
Oh, here we go! Kurt Angle rushing the ring after Austin, exchanging blows, center of the ring. Kurt Angle, cleaning house. Look at Austin, backpedal out of the ring.
Stone Cold, I'm a better athlete than you.
Kurt Angle scored with his Angle slam.
I'm a better competitor than you.
Kurt Angle is so physical, so intense. Angle, the ankle lock. The ankle lock. It's locked in. I think I hear the ankle snapping.
Which is why I have the confidence to challenge you to a match at Summerslam for the World Wrestling Federation.
Do you ever look back at this stuff and think it's pretty amazing you did all of this?
Yeah, it is pretty amazing. Sometimes I have to pinch myself.
Home to where it belongs.
Kurt Angle's eyes tell a story. Kurt Angle has no fear. But can we stay the same for the rattlesnake?
Ever since Stone Cold Steve Austin joined the Alliance, I've led by example.
This is humiliating.
You're pathetic. You suck.
You don't treat another human being like that.
You're gonna learn about respect for Stone Cold.
This is sick.
Kurt Angle, SummerSlam, World Wrestling Federation title on the line. I accept. And what I'm pledging is to whip your red, white, and blue Olympic ass.
He's too devious. He's too evil.
You ain't such a hero now, are you?
This is sick.
You're gonna bleed for the Alliance. You're gonna bleed for Stone Cold Steve Austin.
I'm going to do the same thing I did in the 1996 Olympics. I'm bringing the gold back home.
And a match where the stakes are so high.
I don't know about you, Kurt, but I'm fired up now.
Me too.
Dude, this is such a great time. I didn't even remember that video package, but I knew I wanted us to be able to sort of add context to the mood and the tone and the tenor of this whole storyline. And we see you making your way out here now. But the backstory was great, but the video production, man, David Sahadi, I think, is the guy who probably put that together. That was an unbelievable package, dude.
Yeah, he does a great job. He always does a great job. The guy is incredible at his craft, and he's always come through every time he's done something for me.
We see you coming to the ring here, and it's interesting because I kind of forget too, in hindsight, how weird it is that, you know, the WWF and certainly Vince McMahon has always wanted to make sure everyone knew the WWF was superior to WCW. WWF really had no competition. They have the best in the world. And the WWF title is not on last. It's the WCW title that's on last. And I know it's going to be a big moment. And I understand your rationale in saying, well, he probably didn't want to put a DQ on last, but still, it's a little weird that the big belt, you know, for the company that we're watching here isn't on absolutely last. And here he comes. Stone Cold Steve Austin's going to be making his way to the ring, dragging the big eagle. That's your favorite version of the WWF title too, right?
Yes, it is. I love the Eagle one. It's pretty awesome. It's my favorite title.
Is it weird to look back and see yourself with hair?
Yes, it is weird. I look a lot younger, that's for sure. But I haven't had my head shaved for 20 years now. So it is kind of weird to see it.
Man, what a story we're telling too. He takes the vest off, still bringing the belt, but you guys aren't waiting, getting at it in the aisle. Who would have helped you put together a match like this? Is this just all you and Steve, or is there an agent helping?
Jack Lanza was Steve's favorite agent, so he helped out quite a bit. But for the most part, Stone Cold and I came up with the concepts and the ideas for the matches. Steve wanted to start hot. He wanted, because of the storyline that was really hot too. So he wanted to start with a lot of action, a lot of fighting.
Would you have requested a specific referee with Austin, or would it have just been all set up by the WWE for a big show like this?
Usually it was Earl Hebner, especially with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin loves Hebner for some reason. I know Hebner is an incredible referee. He always has been. So for Austin usually picked Earl Hebner.
It feels like the other staple in this era was Mike Chioda, and he certainly became the go-to guy as well.
Oh, Mike Chioda is an incredible referee. I never had a problem with him once. He was on with everything.
What makes a great referee in your opinion?
Timing, signals, relaying messages, getting the pinfall right, the false finishes correctly. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but some referees don't want to know the whole match. And I kind of like when a referee goes over the whole entire match with you so that he can relay the ideas and spots to you if you forget. But for the most part, a lot of referees don't want to know the whole match. So they just want to know the finish and some of the false finishes.
Kurt, if it's possible, can you mute your Peacock? We're getting a little bit of that through the feed here. Oh man, big cross body there and a false finish. Hebner's making the count. In this era, we're starting to see Stone Cold's body start to break down on him a little bit. Of course, we know a few years prior to this, he had the big neck injury at SummerSlam 97, the mishap with he and Owen Hart. But he's wearing not one, but two knee braces here. How busted up were Austin's knees to the best of your recollection?
He did that for protection. They weren't busted up. He never had problems with his knees. I'm sure he did in the past, and that's why he wears the braces. But I remember one time, Austin he was at a hotel, and this guy said something to him, and Austin flipped him off, and the guy said, "F you cripple." And Austin said all he could do was turn around and start laughing because the guy got him good.
That's hilarious. Oh man. And how about what a different time it was too. You see so many ringside photographers, of course, in this era. Wrestling magazines are still a big thing.
I love the wrestling magazines.
Internationally. Did you keep any where you were on the cover? Do you have any of your old covers?
I have the PWI top 500 when I was number one.
There you go.
Only 1 year, and this is the year 2001. I became the number one wrestler in the PWI top 500.
That's cool, man.
I was number two a couple of times too, but never made number one again, which I was kind of surprised because I had a pretty good career even after 2001.
Oh, no doubt. And it's weird to think back too, because I think a lot of our listeners really want to hear about and talk about your WWF years, but you actually spent more time in TNA than you actually did in WWE, right?
Yes, I did. I spent 6.5 years in WWE and then 11 years in TNA. And I went back to WWE for a couple more years. So 11 years and 9 years. So I was in TNA more than WWE.
As far as just your personal enjoyment, I'm not asking income or accomplishments on camera, nothing like that. Just you, the man, Kurt Angle, what year did you have the most fun in? If you had to go back and relive 1 year, not financially, not on TV, not like accomplishments or whatever, just, hey man, that was fun. Is there a year that stands out above others?
Well, surprisingly, I just started out. My rookie year and my second year are my top two favorites. And I was very inexperienced. I was a nervous wreck when I went out there because half the time I didn't know what I was going to do. My opponent would tell me, lead me through the match. And it was really difficult, but I really enjoyed the challenge. It was a lot of fun to learn on the fly. And also, I won a lot of titles those 2 years. So I was pretty established as a wrestler.
When you're putting together a match like this, and it's we call it the co-main event, I know that they're going to tell you, hey, because they got to time the show, so they've got to leave time for the main event, and of course you want to make sure that everything airs and you don't lose your satellite time. That's the way pay-per-view worked, especially in this era. But if a guy like Austin's out there and, we're at our time code, let's just pretend for a minute that we were supposed to go 20 minutes and the match winds up going 23. To a guy like Steve Austin, does Vince McMahon even say a word when he comes back through, or is it that big of a deal on pay-per-view? You have to hit your time no matter what.
I think Vince would say something, but he wouldn't be derogatory or angry to Austin. I think he would say, hey, you went over. I'm going to have to pay a fine. It's going to be a big fine, but that's okay. I think that Vince and Steve, they had such a great relationship that Vince was never going to yell at Steve for that. I think Steve's the only one that would get away with it. Maybe him or The Rock or Undertaker.
Or Shawn Michaels.
Or Shawn, yes.
Shawn Michaels had a reputation for going long, but again, his matches were critically acclaimed. Everybody knew, hey, if it's long, it's great stuff. Yeah. So it's hard to be mad if the result is a great match like this one is.
Well, my match with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21 went 6 minutes over.
Right.
and Vince did not yell at Shawn about it.
Well, again, to your point, if you have that trust and credibility in the relationship, but also too, if it's a great match, it's hard to be mad if something's great.
Yeah. But in wrestling, you have to hit your time cues. That's the most important thing about it. Unfortunately, everything else takes the back seat to that. Timing is everything.
We just saw you take a big turnbuckle to the face there. Is there magic to taking a turnbuckle spot, whether it's on your back or wherever? Is there magic to that, or is it just kind of is what it is?
You just got to put your head down and take it. Yeah. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it doesn't. But the turnbuckle is pretty good padding, so you don't have to worry that much. That was the hard way. I took that one the hard way.
Yeah, I was going to say that was a thud there. We see Austin scaling to the top, setting up what looks like a big superplex here. Let's see what happens.
He was such a great in-ring worker. He was so underrated inside the ring because, I said this before, but his character, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the beer drinker, was so strong that people forgot about how good of a wrestler he was.
Yeah, you go back and you watch some of his early WCW stuff, and man, he was a real technician. And
oh yes,
there it comes, the big superplex. What hurts worse, the moonsault or a superplex off the top rope?
Superplex doesn't hurt that much, and he has your neck supported, so you don't get whiplash. You just hit your back. I mean, it hurts a little bit, but definitely the moonsault, hitting your knees and your stomach hurts a lot more than your back.
And your toes probably too, right?
Oh yeah, I stubbed my toes quite a few times doing that.
Is your nose bleeding here?
Yes, my nose is bleeding. I don't know how. I think Austin might have stiffed me with a punch, which is not unusual with Austin. So sometimes he could lay in with those punches.
Who was probably the most notorious when it came to throwing those potatoes, those haymakers, those accidental live rounds as a punch?
You know what? At the beginning of my career, it was Chris Jericho. He would potato people pretty well, but he got a lot better at it further in his career. But I know he wrestled a lot in WCW, but by the time he came to WWE, he was still pretty stiff with the punches. But he was able to fix that in a couple years.
Who did you think, in your opinion, had the best punch in wrestling?
Undertaker. Oh, wow. Gosh. He would line you up and he would pull that punch back to his chin and he would throw it, and it looked so real. He called it throwing soup bones, and that was Undertaker's wording for it. But he was incredible. His punches looked so real, and they didn't touch you at all.
See Austin talking to Hebner here. This is good stuff. I mean, that's what you got to do as a heel. You got to get in the face of the referee. You're supposed to be a cheater.
Yeah, Austin was so good at this. I was surprised that he wasn't a heel for a long time. I think maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, not very long.
Babyface.
Yeah.
So him being able to change this quickly and adapt that fast is incredible.
So not one, not two, but 3 separate shots into the pole. And of course, I think you've been lacerated, as they say. Is this something you would have been nervous about going into a match like this? making sure that you got the job done when it came to getting some color?
Well, it didn't work out for me that well. I was trying to gig. I was trying to get a lot of blood, and I was doing superficial wounds. I was slicing my head with a corner of a razor, and it wasn't working. So Austin was like, "Give me that damn razor, kid." And he grabbed it and he dug it into my head and twisted. So it wasn't a slice, it was a dig and twist. And he even said that to me. "You got to dig and twist, kid, dig and twist." And I was bleeding like a sieve after that.
Did he just do it right there?
Yes. He's pretty quick with it, huh?
Well, he ran you into the post 5 times, and now all of a sudden, well, here it comes. Gosh,
there it
what
is.
a bloody mess. Does any part of you start to panic or freak out when there's this much coming out? I mean, obviously you're a badass, but it's got to be a little weird. Like, oh shit, this is more than I planned for.
It was a lot, but you don't think about that. You just worry about your match and continuing on and making sure you get all the spots right.
Man.
I didn't even know I was bleeding this badly until I saw it back.
Wow. Man, look at where your face was on the mat. It is coming down.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, I guess. What a weird business, right? Thanks for cutting my head open.
Dig and twist. I still have the scar right here. It's a big lump on my forehead.
From this match?
Yeah, from him digging and twisting the razor into my head.
Dig and twist. That might be a
dig and twist. Don't slice, dig and twist.
It's pretty remarkable to see what we're seeing. You know, I don't know that you're going to see many more matches like this in 2021.
It's pretty brutal. Yeah, it's bloody, it's graphic. It's a lot different than it is today.
Meltzer would write, Kurt Angle beat Steve Austin by DQ, so Austin retained the WWF title in 22 minutes and 30 seconds. Super match with a bad finish. Austin worked over Angle's left knee early. Angle got the ankle lock early for a rope break. Austin threw several suplexes. He came back with 7 belly-to-belly suplexes, and then he came back with a superplex off the top. Angle, who for some reason got a bloody nose, was hit with a stunner at 7 minutes for a near fall. After a second stunner, Angle rolled out of the ring. Austin then posted Angle 5 times, and Angle juiced like crazy. Austin suplexed Angle over the barricade. And so here we go now. You see Austin's in the ring, or Austin's on the other side of the barricade on the floor with the fans, and over you come. Boy, you felt tailbone first. That couldn't have felt good.
Oh no, it freaking hurt, man. At least I didn't crack my tailbone like I did at King of the Ring.
What's crazy is when he was getting ready to suplex you over, you could just look at the concrete where the fans are, and there's a huge bloody smear. Oh man, it's coming down.
I bled profusely that night.
How many stitches did you need for this?
I think it was 8. And that was because I was slicing myself too. Austin, the dig and twist, there was only 2 stitches for that.
When you got family at home, what are they thinking when they see their loved one, their brother, their son, their husband pour in blood on TV like this?
Oh, my mother, she called me that night. She was like, "What are you doing? Why are you letting him make you bleed like that?" She doesn't understand. She didn't understand the concept that it was predetermined. So
sure,
she thought that this was a real fight.
I don't think I've seen this many times. You're dragging Austin up the steps backwards. You're going to try to drag him into the ring. Wow, that's pretty innovative.
Yes, I did this spot. This was Stone Cold's idea. He wanted me to pull him in
all the way into the middle of the ring. There's the ankle lock. Man, that's a cool visual.
It is a cool visual. And as you can see, if you look closely, Austin did help me quite a bit.
Yeah, but still, it looks cool.
It does look cool.
What a story they've told. Austin has beaten the hell out of you, but you're still not dead. And you had him in the middle of the ring with the ankle lock, but of course he gets the rope break. Man, this has got to be one of your top matches at this point in your career.
Oh yes, without a doubt. This match was one of my favorites. The only problem I had with it was the DQ finish.
Right.
Other than that, I thought the match was as incredible as it could have been. And I was so excited to work with Stone Cold. He was the reason why I even joined the WWE, why I signed with him. I fell in love with his character and his style, and I wanted to be him. Little did I know I was going to be the opposite of him, but
yeah,
he's the reason why I got in the business. And here I am working with him a year and a half later.
Belly to belly suplex on the floor. Of course, it's on mats, but still, I think some fans at home probably think, oh, well, those are like gymnastic mats. It's probably not. No, I don't want Kurt Angle to suplex my big ass anywhere, much less on the floor. Come on.
Yeah, those are hard rubber, very, very hard rubber. And right underneath it is cement. So the rubber doesn't even work. It's basically getting bumped on cement. It feels that hard.
You saw belly to belly and then almost like a backdrop driver
Belly
there.
back.
Yeah. And the referee is being pretty liberal here. You're pouring blood, trying to get Austin back in the ring so you can win your damn belt back.
You know what's amazing is Stone Cold never changed his style. Even after he had neck fusion,
yeah,
he never changed his style. He still did everything he did before, and he would bump any way you want him to bump. He never tried to protect his neck. It was amazing how he was able to adapt and not have to worry about his neck anymore. Usually when you have the surgery, you're like, okay, I can't do this, this, and this,
right,
but I can do that. But with Austin, anything still went.
Here we go. You're setting up the big moonsault. And you hit it. Perfect.
Did I nail it this time?
Dude, you nailed it. Here we go. Let's see. Can you make the cover? Oh man. It's still fascinating to me to think, because I don't know that I ever put it together until you revealed here on the show that you wouldn't let anybody clothesline you over the top and you go over backwards. But hey, if you want me to climb on top of some shit and flip backwards, no problem.
I know. I'm weird like that. I don't even know any other way to explain it.
It would be like, I'm too scared to drive a car. I'm going to go get this motorcycle now. Wait a minute. What? How's that possible?
I'm going to fly a jet.
Yeah, no big deal. Couple of reversals here. Oh, and he's got the old school $1 million dream from when he first came into the WWF. I like that. The old Ted DiBiase finish that he used.
There it is.
Into a pinning combination. Maybe. Oh, I like this. From a storytelling standpoint, this is a main event, man.
Yes, this is as good of a main event as it can be. Other than the finish, which,
right,
we've talked about a million times. Other than that, you can't get a better match than this. Stone Cold and I were on that night.
When you come back through the curtain, what's Vince saying after a match like this?
Oh, he was hugging us. He was like, that was awesome. Thank you so much, guys. And that's when you know you did something special, is when Vince gets up and he's really excited. And Vince was very excited about this match.
I don't know that I'm sure you do know.
Saw money.
I'm sure you've talked about how much you wanted to work Brett a bunch here on the show, but that little push off you did on the top rope to reverse the sleeper hold and try to turn it into a pin on Austin, that's a Bret Hart special, man. He did that with Austin back in Survivor Series 96 and even at WrestleMania 8 against Roddy Piper to win the Intercontinental title back. And that's kind of cool knowing that you had so much respect for Bret, and that's sort of a Bret spot right there.
It is a Bret spot, but it was Steve's idea, and it's probably because he did it with Bret.
Yeah, and it was awesome.
Yes.
What do you think of the old, let me raise your arms 3 times, and then right before it hits the 3rd time, you sort of hulk up? Do you like that?
It's a bit hokey, but it works. Fortunately, it does work. The fans get with it every time. Very seldom do they not get with it, but it works for the most part.
To me, that and the old 10 punches in the corner where the crowd counts along, those are like stereotypical house show matches. Yeah. Austin doing the trash talking. He's trying to set up the Stone Cold Stunner, just waiting on you to get your bloody tail up and catch one. Here we go.
What I was really impressed with myself about was how well I sold this match, especially with little experience. I thought this was a really solid match.
Oh, totally. And Austin's frustrated that the stunner didn't get it done. Of course, he's frustrated with Hebner. But it's not Hebner. There's no quit in Mr. Angle. Oh, I like this. As you crawl up Austin here, he's looking down like, what's it going to take to beat this guy?
I'm never giving up. I just keep climbing up on him. This is a very dramatic scene. Pulling yourself up on the wrestler.
Oh, wow. Look at the fans. Wow, they went nuts for that. That was a nice spot right there. And boy, you've told us about this 100 times when we talk about match structure. Then you do the double down, and here comes the count. Just as you said. Crawling over to try to make the cover. I know long-term storytelling wise, it didn't make sense maybe for you to win the title here, but the fans were ready for it. They were ready for you to win.
Yes, they were. I was pretty surprised, but I think that the company wanted to hold off on that.
Yeah.
I know that they wanted us to go further in certain matches, but they also wanted they didn't just want to protect me. They wanted to protect Steve. They were very adamant about protecting him, even as a heel. So I totally understood why they did the DQ. And eventually I did win the title from him.
I think in our research, we discovered that, big DDT right there. You might be the only guy, as a reminder, in case you're not able to watch along with us, referee Earl Hebner went down. So here comes Mike Chioda to count, and Austin kicks out. I think you're the only guy to kick out of the stunner 3 times in the same match. Did you know that?
That was Austin's idea. He wanted me to look invincible. He wanted me to look as strong as I possibly could. And I told him, I said, 3 stunners. He's like, yeah, let's do it. So we ended up doing it.
Oh, big stunner for Chioda there. Austin's ready for him to be out of here. I do want to ask, the rumor and innuendo is that the finish of this match was determined the morning of the show. Did you hear that they weren't sure which direction they were going with regards to the finish until the day of?
Yes, I was told they changed their mind a bunch of times. They wanted Austin to go over. They wanted me to go over, Austin to go over, me to go over. Then they came up with a happy medium and said, let's do a DQ. And they decided that the morning of the show.
Oh my gosh. A belt shot for Tim White. We're down 3 referees now, but an angle slam too. We just need a damn referee to make the count. And of course there isn't one. Oh wait, yes there is, but it's a WCW referee. It's Nick Patrick.
Oh boy, here comes trouble.
Let's take a listen.
What is this? Why is the bell ringing?
It's a winner by disqualification. Therefore, Steve Austin retains the WWF Heavyweight title. Referee Nick Patrick has disqualified Stone Cold Steve Austin for excessive abuse towards the officials. Therefore, your winner, Kurt Angle.
You robbed me. But Kurt Angle didn't win the title. Damn
However,
it.
still World Wrestling Federation champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Angle got screwed. Kurt Angle just got screwed by a guy.
I got screwed, Conrad.
And Nick Patrick is getting thrown into the rings, and Kurt Angle is fired up, and you see Nick Patrick begging off. Nope, that's not going to work. Bam, big right hand for Patrick. And of course, an ankle lock for good measure.
I stiffed him too.
Meltzer would say, Angle had Austin pinned after the slam when Nick Patrick ran in, and instead of counting the fall, disqualified Austin for attacking the previous refs. Ross and Heyman were going crazy trying to put this match over and make the finish into a heat finish instead of a grown DQ finish. Unfortunately, they put the heat on the referee instead of Austin. 4.5 stars. You got to think if that was a clean finish, you would have had another 5-star match on your hand. Come on.
That's right. All they had to do is have me win. That's it.
In hindsight, how ballsy is it? And we're going to see some highlights here. It's pretty ballsy to think about the fact that you're bleeding like this and Austin helped you do it. And he lets you suplex him on the floor twice after major neck surgery.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude.
It is crazy. He, like I said, he never changed his style. Stone Cold, I think the reason why he left is because he wasn't the same wrestler that he was beforehand. In other words, when he decided to leave the company, he knew he lost a step.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to keep going as that person that lost a step. He wanted people to remember him in his prime. So that's the reason why he did leave when he did.
We had a question here from Tony. He says, this is the best singlet you ever wore. Why didn't you ever wear it again?
Well, I used to have singlets made every month for every pay-per-view. So I'd only wear that singlet for the month. And then I'd have a new one made by the next pay-per-view. And I'd wear that one every TV until the next pay-per-view. And then I have another one made. So I only wore it for a month and that was it. And I ended up giving that away to either a charity or a Hall of Fame.
Keegan writes in, although the invasion storyline hasn't been well received from a creative standpoint, do you think you and Austin arguably had some of your best matches in your careers during this 2001 run?
Definitely. We definitely had some of our best matches in our career. And rightfully so. We were both prime workers. We both had a lot of talent and we had incredible chemistry. So there was no doubt we were going to have great matches.
Tell me a little bit about the match itself here. Umar says, Kurt, this match is probably your most underrated WWF match of all time. Would you agree?
Yes, I think so. And it's because of the DQ finish. So if it wasn't a DQ finish, I think they'd be talking about it like they do my match with Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 21, or my match against Eddie, WrestleMania 20, or my match against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 19, or my match against Benoit at the Royal Rumble 2003. But yeah, they definitely would be talking about it if it weren't a DQ finish, if it was a clean finish.
So do you think it's not, I mean, I guess you're right. I guess it's just because of the DQ finish, because I can't think of another reason it wouldn't be considered an instant classic. What we just saw was badass stuff, man.
It was pretty awesome. I was actually really surprised. It was better than I remembered. And I'm very proud of that match. And I know Stone Cold would be too.
You gotta get excited about saving people all those dollars. They can limousine ride and jet fly now with that extra cash.
And they can style and profile with a quick 10-minute phone call right now to 425-0105.
That's 425-0105. Woo!
SaveWithConrad.com. Well, listen, I'm happy with what we did here today. This was so fun to go back and take.
I love watch-alongs.
Well, in this match in particular, my goodness, what a great match. And I don't know that I would have just on my own sat down and watched it, but I'm glad right here at the exact 20-year anniversary, we're making time to do so. The only thing that we were missing today, Kurt, is some chicken snacks. And of course, I've got a bag in the kitchen. You've got one, bam, right there. And
yes, I do.
Protein. Of course, you can pick them up at physicallyfit.com. You want to click on where to order, and then you want to click on order online. At least that's what I do. And if you do it the way I do, you can throw in the promo code AnglePod and save 20% off your entire order. I want to mention there's a bunch of servings in every bag. So you're looking like, I don't know, around $1 a snack. It is a great value and it's actually good for you. Ton of protein and not very much bad stuff at all. Right, Kurt?
Yes. These things are 100% healthy, high protein, low carbohydrate, low fat. We have 11 different flavors from sriracha to barbecue to kung po to cinnamon swirl and a bunch of other flavors. You can get them at physicallyfit.com. If you use the promo AnglePod, you get 20% off your order.
Check it out right now. AnglePod gets you 20% off. And I also want to mention that, Kurt, you've got everything happening over at your website. When I say everything, I literally mean everything. You can get milk cartons signed. You can get little cowboy hats. You can get birthday cards. You can get t-shirts. You can get merch. You can even get a cameo. But maybe my favorite thing is there's information at kurtanglebrand.com where you can go ahead and ship something to Kurt. He'll autograph it and send it back for a small donation. Maybe you have an old title belt. Maybe you met Kurt once upon a time in a meet and greet. He'll sign the picture of you two together. I'm excited, dude. This was a great show. I don't know what I expected. Obviously, I ordered this pay-per-view when it happened, but I don't know that I'd sat down and watched this match again until today. And the video was awesome. Sahadi just crushed it. And you guys, once that bell rang, man, it was just magic. You and Austin might actually be one of my favorite matches right there that we just saw.
Thank you, Conrad. I appreciate that. I thought it was pretty awesome too. I like I said before, Stone Cold was an incredible worker, and he was incredible in-ring general. And he led me through that match, and he did an incredible job. He was awesome.
And where else can you get the story like dig and twist, and that Kurt still has a scar to this day from this particular match? Next week, we're going to be back with something a little more lighthearted. And yes, it is going to be another watch along. It's Milkamania from August 20th, 2001. I can't believe that was 20 years ago. What a fucking summer you had in 2001. Man. That's unbelievable.
That was Sacramento, California. I'll never forget driving that milk truck into the arena and dousing Austin and the Alliance with milk. It was my favorite moment of all time, without a doubt.
Well, stay tuned, boys and girls. We'll be back next week with Milkamania right here on the Kurt Angle Show. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.